Hey y'all, good morning. I'm going to go ahead and make over another one of these 18-inch bunnies from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to just remove the bow and that little blessed wording from this side and go ahead and paint it with my cottage white. Then I'll flip it over to the other side. I wanted to do a little bit of a distress technique, and the other side is already brown, so I thought it would be perfect. Now, this is my Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster, and I added a little bit to a plate, and I'm going to use this little palette tool and just kind of scrape this paint onto my bunny so that that brown will show through, and it just gives it a little bit of a vintage feel. Now, because this is kind of that pressed cardboard type material, the paint's going to absorb into it just a little bit. And I wanted to go for more of a country farmhouse kind of vintage feeling, and I think that this piece is one that could be left out all year long and not just for Easter. So I just kind of kept spreading that on there until I was happy with the way it looked, and I dried it really well. And you can see how that cardboard type texture absorbed some of that paint. So now I'm going over it with a second layer of the same paint. And this layer is going to pick up a little bit darker. And so you can see the lighter paint underneath as well as some of the brown, and it just gives it a good layered look like it's been painted a lot of times. Just what I love. Then I'll hit that layer with the blow dryer as well. Now, I've had this stencil for several years. I'm going to add a link in the comments to a comparable stencil that's got fairly the same design that you could order from Amazon. I'll use a little piece of sponge, and I did use my Waverly chalk paint in the color Truffle and just sponged on that color. I did it kind of lightly in some places and darker in the others with this little sponge, and it gives you a super distressed look. I didn't want it to be solid, and I am going to go ahead and sand over it a little bit too after I lift the stencil off and get it dry. So I did go for a distressed look, but you wouldn't have to do that on your project. Now, once I finished, I removed my little stencil. You can see how that pattern just kind of looks vintage and old. Then I did sand it off really well, but I lost that part of my video. I'm taking my Dixie Belle wax in the color brown, and I just waxed over the whole thing. And because of the sanding and just the layers of paint, I really picked up some really good texture, and this wax just gets down into those little texture bits. Then I took a soft cloth and just buffed off that wax. Just turned out to be such a pretty texture. And I personally love the colors, and I do think that this is very farmhouse vintage. Now, I've got these old cedar shake shingles. I lined up 3 of them, and I just took some paint sticks and hot glued those across the back as a brace. These are probably close to 19 inches long, so the bunny fit perfectly on them. I added some hot glue and just glued that little bunny down there. Then I went to my Bodabra and I layered some fabric and just kind of made a little rag bow and tied that up. Tied that jute off with a knot. And then I added a little bit of hot glue under the bunny's neck. And there you go. I think it turned out pretty cute, and it gives me a good country vintage feel. I hope it gives you an idea and some inspiration. If you can't find these rabbits at the Dollar Tree, you could always find a pattern online and cut one out of cardboard. I hope y'all have a wonderful day, and I will see you later. Bye.